Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm a solutions engineer here at Hex. I've been in the data space for about 10 years at this point, doing a whole variety of roles, really the jack of all trade of data. And I'm very excited today to show you how to Hex, specifically the self-service edition. Okay, well, let's jump into it. Go ahead and share my screen. And for today's session, self-service means a lot of different things. So I'll really talk through three different ways that you can self-serve with Hex. Um, first one being just assets that the data team has already built out, apps, and how folks can just self-serve from things that have been curated for them. And then as people have those second and third level follow-up questions, how they can use Explore to further self-serve from those apps. And then finally, when an existing asset doesn't already exist, how folks can answer a new question completely from scratch. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, so for today's example, let's say that I work at a B2B SaaS company and I am interested in tracking our revenue. Really, self-service starts with the data assets, which starts with the data team. And so Hex provides a unified platform for data impact because it is the best place for data teams to do their data work, all in the same place where business stakeholders are getting the insights they need. So for the first level of self-service, let's start out with the app that a data analyst has already created for their team. So to start out, this is a go-to-market app that I have created. And really, I'm going to show you how Hex is the best place for data teams to have the tools they need to generate insights for their users in self-serve. So I'll show you a little bit of behind the scenes, what is happening here. I'll go into the notebook view. And Hex is really powerful because it provides for data team members all the tool they need to do their best work. It's one platform with many modalities where you're connected directly to your data warehouse, and you can use any modality you want to do the work so you don't have to worry about where to go, and you can just more focus on generating the insights you need for your stakeholders. So as an analyst, I can create the best app possible for my revenue team. In here, I have a few different modalities. I can query SQL directly, and it's not just a query engine, but also I have the ability to write DDL, DML commands as well. So more of a front end to your data warehouse. And what's really powerful is that these are then saved in Hex as data frames or objects that are just that you can continue to reuse um, and interop with the other modalities that we have. And instead of having to jump between tools to write Python or just completely neglect it because you don't want to set up an environment, Hex makes it easy for you to switch into Python and reference anything that you already created in your SQL cells. And for folks who just want to write a really simple calculation, you can also use spreadsheet-like calculations in our table display. So sometimes I don't want to write code. Maybe I just want to edit a formula and write a simple if statement to see if our sales reps have hit their accelerators. I can do that really easily without any code. And these are all different modalities that folks have access to. And instead of what we've seen, customers jumping between a few different tools to get all of these functionalities, you can do it all in one place, all in Hex. And then, of course, all of that can be used to funnel into chart cells um, with any of the things you've already created here so that you can actually generate these insights for your stakeholders. And of course, all of this is integrated with AI where you have access to Magic, our AI, and you can generate SQL or Python or charts directly with that instead of writing it out manually. And then once you're ready, you can assemble anything you created in that notebook view and curate it in this canvas to make it look nice and beautiful for your end users. So that's level one of just being able to curate giving the data team the ability to do their best work in one place so that they can make it easy for their end users to self-serve. Now let's step into the shoes of John, who is an end user. I am John, the head of revenue, and it's planning season. So I want to understand what's been going on and plan for next quarter's strategic initiatives. The first level as John, where I can self-serve, is just interacting with what my analyst has already built out for me. So I can come into this app and look at all my KPIs and my app and my charts and see all the trends here. And coming up here in the very top, I can see that my SMB segment has been doing really well. They've been making lots of money. So now I have a hypothesis for my initiative. Maybe I want to focus on just SMB. And I can filter my chart to just look at the data that's relevant to me for this initiative. I also have access to all of these account level, opportunity level, creator filters, and drop downs, but they're a little bit too granular now. I'll just focus on this segment. And I can see that they've been doing well and trending to the up and to the right, which is exactly what I like to see as a data leader or as a revenue leader. And what I also want to know is how will they do in the future? Down here, I have a forecast, and this shows me 24 days. Let me just see what it'll look like for the next 2 months so that I can make sure the trend continues to go up. And it looks like it does. So now I have in my mind an initiative to invest more in our SMB segment, and it might be available to increase headcount for next quarter as demand continues to rise. As John, I'm non-technical. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes and what creates this, but this is actually being fueled by a Python cell with a profit model that my data analyst has created for me. And this is different from traditional BI tools because you can integrate that advanced analytics, anything you do in Python, directly into your app. And as John, the head of revenue, I have no idea about any of that complexity. I just know that I get the insights I need, which allows me to have access to more powerful insights. So that's really the level one of self-service where I, as John, can just work off of something that's already been built out for me, interact with parameters, and have access to really powerful advanced analytics so that I can answer my question and start developing these initiatives for the next quarter. But for anyone who's ever developed an app or a dashboard, we all know that not every answer can be answered from the app. And in that case, Hex has the level 2 of self-service to allow John to answer his follow-up questions without having to go to the data team. So let's say now that I want to better understand where my future dollars are coming from. And I have access to this opportunity pipeline chart, but where are they being sourced so that we know that we can continue to have that pipeline and grow revenue in the future? The level 2 of self-service is I can use Explore to answer any follow-up questions without having to go back to the data team so that when I do have these quick questions, I don't have to go back to them and they get their time freed up. So let's hit Explore and figure out what are the sources for my pipeline. Explore will bring up a chart builder where I can use this to drag and drop and find the answer that I need. In this case, it's what are the traffic sources that are driving my opportunities. I just drag and dropped and replaced the color by, and I can see here that my Google Ads are a driver or a top driver. So let's actually just take a closer look at Google Ads. And then from here, there seems to be a bit of a spike. I'm curious what's going on here. So let's investigate and drill down. And my hypothesis is that there's a specific campaign type that influenced this. So let's see what this looks like by campaign type. And I can continue to dig into this. I can see that my events and conferences are the number one driver of these sources. So that tells me that ads for events and conferences might be a good investment, and we might want to double down on our in-person presence. Okay, so I can do all of that manually, and you can see that in just a few clicks, I was able to explore the data and form hypotheses and get insights into what to invest in. I can also do that with AI. Instead of having to manually update everything, I can just ask in natural language questions of the data. So I'm also now curious about what are the top first touch sources by opportunity count, and let's have that be sorted descending. And I can not only ask this question in natural language, but Magic our AI will think about it and also update the visualization to basically show its work so that it's not just a black box answer. I can trust what I see. And here it's pretty clear from the summary that the trial is the leading first touch source. That seems like a great place to invest in. I'm also curious how many of those trials resulted in a closed won, how many became customers. So I can ask it how many of those trials resulted in a closed won? And Magic again will think about it and be able to answer this question for me in natural language while showing its work. And you can see that 310 of those were closed won, and it even did the calculation for me of 25% of those trials were successful, which is a pretty high percentage and tells me that I should invest more in trials for the next quarter. At this point, some of you might be wondering, what fuels this chart? What is this data, and how does Magic know how to answer these questions? Well, this behind this chart is a semantic model. And this means that the data team has already predefined the joins to tables. They've already created specific metrics for this specific analysis so that I, as John, don't have to worry about where the data lives. I can just use this to get my insights. And I know that the AI is also has access to all of the data and metadata around these in the semantic model. So previously, John, would have had to file a ticket, wait for it to get prioritized, or bribe a data analyst to do this work for me, and that probably would have taken a few back and forths. With Hex, he's able to self-serve and come up with hypotheses for Q3 priorities for this time-sensitive executive planning session in just a few clicks without having to go back to the data team. That is level 2 for self-service. And now finally, there might be times where the data team hasn't already created an app for you to self-serve off of. You might have new questions. In that case, Hex allows you to do that by exploring from scratch. And to do this, I'll show you how you can answer these new questions directly from the data warehouse or already pre-built semantic models. So as I continue to have my planning hat on, I can ask Magic about what to invest in. I'll point it to the semantic model, which I know has already been built and is blessed by the data team. And I'll ask it, what are the top industry groups in our customer base? Should we invest more in targeting specific industries? Magic will first try to redirect you to existing assets that the data team has built out. But if nothing here already answers the question, it'll also start a first draft of an exploration. And we have that same drag and drop interface where I can use charts and data to answer my question, as we saw from Explore from the app earlier. And I also have that same chat box here. I can see here that my agriculture is the top industry, but it doesn't really seem to be too differentiated. I'm curious if we look at dollars, if that will change. So I'll say update to show by closed won ARR. And Magic will update this for me to hopefully answer my hypothesis. Do we invest in a specific industry group? And here I can see hospitality is the number one here, but it doesn't really stand out that far above everything else. So I think now is not the right time to actually invest in a group. And from here, I could be done with my analysis. Previously, this hunch that I had as John would probably not have gotten answered because I wouldn't have had access to the data I need to do this, especially because it was just an inkling. It wouldn't have been a priority enough to file a ticket. But with this new exploration from scratch, John can start his own analysis on a trusted semantic model or a data warehouse table without having to rely and wait on the data team. Okay, well, those are the three levels of self-service in Hex where end users can come in and get insights directly from a built-out app that a data team member has built out. They can answer new questions in that app from Explore, and then they can also answer just brand new questions overall by exploring from scratch. All right, I will open it up to Q&A now. So if you do have any questions, please drop it into the Q&A box. I see we have one from Sydney. Um, One issue we have with self-service through parameters is with multi-filters. It starts rerunning immediately after 1 second, or the report takes too long to refresh, which causes people to not use the report. What are your solutions for this use case? Actually, that's a really great question. So another thing that folks might or might not know about Hex is that we release a lot of things really quickly. And we've heard this problem. We actually have a solution for that in place right now, where if you don't want to have the filter run immediately, there's actually a setting in the interactions here where you can actually have update this to wait for users to click the run button instead of automatically rerunning the app when they update a parameter. And when you click this, I can make any changes to this parameter I want. And then from the front end, the user would have to hit the run button up here to be able to have it update. So then you can sort of queue up a few different one of these input parameters and then just wait to hit run. Okay, next question. How does the opportunity forecast work? What is being used to predict these values in the back end? Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is it's basically whatever you want it to be. Hex gives you the power to use Python or SQL, so you can use those tools to create whatever forecast you want. And in this example, I'll just go ahead and show you. It is a profit model that I just wrote up in Python. So if I go, this is just all of the nitty-gritty behind the scenes, but you can see, let's see, here that I've used some Python to determine what my analysis looks like. And then this is the profit model from the profit library. So again, you can use whatever methodology you want. There's a few other libraries that people prefer too. And Hex just gives you the flexibility to do the analysis you want. Great. Is there a way for me as an admin to audit explores that users have done or shared? I'm concerned about inaccurate analysis that could be done and shared without data analyst approval, but of course excited for this new frontier. Yeah, totally hear you on sort of the governance of what folks are able to share. For the explores, when you do create an explore, it is based on the data that's behind the visualization. So in this case, I have it backed by a semantic model. Typically, if you build a semantic model, that is what we considered the best practice for data teams because it already has predefined joins and measures, as well as descriptions of how to use this data. And then I guess in terms of, and then from there, the user can then update and answer the questions however they want. That's sort of the level of, I guess, approvals now. But I think the other thing to call out is typically users, this will just be on the user's instance, so it's not gonna update or save automatically unless they choose to save this and share it with you. And so maybe a process thing that you can add is to ask before they share it out to make sure they share the exploration link with you, and you can sort of audit it that way. Good question. Any What other questions do people have? I covered a lot of material. And if also just to plug this, if you haven't already visited our Learn page, we have docs with lots and lots of explanation for all the things I've talked about today, including Explore. And there's so many things that I haven't had time to go through. But we've been building a lot in this space recently, and it's a continued focus for teams. So I do want to say that it's only going to improve, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of improvements coming up. So don't be afraid to go into the doc site. And even in the past month or so, we've released so many new features. So if you ever do have a question, just type it in here and see if it exists. For example, our semantic model sync is also in here. And we're continuing to iterate and add more AI capabilities. So I don't have anything to show you for the new AI capabilities, but just know that there is more coming soon. I'll wait another minute or two for any last minute questions. But hopefully that this is useful to you. Some of the customers I work with, they find that their users are just really happy, even with the simple apps, the input parameters, and the ability to update basically code behind the scenes. All right, just to better understand, when John asks a new question, which is not covered within the semantic model, does it create a new SQL or Python cell to generate charts based on the existing notebook? Or is John limited to the semantic model in the notebook features? Yeah, that's a really good question. John, so I think as we think about this of exploration, there's a trade-off between governance and how much you want John to be able to have access to that would be accurate versus what is curated and will be true. So today, when John asks a question, it's not covered in the semantic model. It Magic won't be able to generate the insights because that's where it's pointed at. That's where people tell that to look. And the reason for that is if John needs to have accurate information, so we don't want to just have it generate SQL and Python without him being able to review it and make sure that it is correct. Okay, yeah, so John does have access to whatever semantic models, and the semantic models is not in it can be in the notebook, but this is more in the published app or that explore from scratch in the homepage that I showed you. But we are building a lot more in that direction, so stay tuned there. Can this report be put in the gallery? I love these graphs. Data art. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we've done a lot to improve the aesthetics of our demo. So yeah, let me look into what it would look like to put this into the gallery. Stay tuned.